Sarah Ferguson has been unexpectedly withdrawn. Her withdrawn children's book, Flora and Fern, Kindness Along the Way, offers a revealing case study, or it would offer a revealing case study, in the brutal logic of contemporary publishing and the diminishing tolerance for misjudgment in public life. The decision by New Frontier Publishing to mark the book as withdrawn from sale after weeks of delay, evasive silence and shifting publication dates speaks less about the text itself and far more about the radioactive nature of its author's current public standing. At one level, the withdrawal is a straightforward commercial calculation. Children's publishing relies heavily on reputation, trust and a clean moral horizon around its authors. While Ferguson lost her Duchess title following Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's fall from grace, the consequences were initially symbolic. Now they're painfully practical. The resurfaced 2011 email in which she described Jeffrey Epstein as my supreme friend has shredded what remained of her philanthropic partnerships, and more than half a dozen charities severed ties in September alone with Sarah Ferguson, an exodus that would chill any risk-averse publisher. Neil Denny of Book Brunch captures the mood with stark clarity. This is simply not the moment to release a Sarah Ferguson book. His point is sound. The text is not time-sensitive. It can be warehoused until the climate shifts, or, more realistically, until the public has exhausted its appetite for further revelations about Andrew Epstein and the nebulous financial and personal entanglements surrounding both. That said, what is notable is the publisher's total silence. New Frontier Publishing has not responded to repeated requests for comment, and Ferguson's own representatives have retreated into non-engagement. Their reticence signals two things. First, the depth of the reputational crisis, and second, the absence of any coherent strategy. We've reached a point where the optics of a children's book about kindness have collided with material that is anything but. The personal consequences for Ferguson are stark. Her life in Royal Lodge is ending. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will be moved, along with the teddy bears, to the King's Sandringham estate. Ferguson, by contrast, appears to be in a kind of soft exile. Reports suggest a move to Princess Eugenie's home in Portugal, though nothing has been confirmed. Her standing inside the family is weakening. Her earning capacity is contracting dramatically. It's not simple cruelty to observe that much of this was foreseeable. Ferguson's long history of financial chaos, ill-judged associates, toe-sucking, improvisational crisis management has left her with very few defenders in a world where titles have been stripped, credit is thin, and public sympathy is heavily qualified. It's telling that HarperCollins, which published her historical romances, has maintained that her earlier titles remain available but has refrained from any wider comment. They are watching events, waiting to see whether her brand stabilises or collapses. The industry is holding her at arm's length because, of course, scandal could immediately catapult her titles, her oeuvre, into the megasphere where everybody wants to read the latest word that drips out of her lips. But I think my hunch is that at the moment anything that she's written is automatically pulped. There is a broader cultural dimension. The public mood around royal memoirs, tell-alls and personal reinvention is fatigued. Prince Harry's Spare exhausted the genre's goodwill. The notion of Ferguson publishing a candid autobiography has been described by commentators such as Richard Fitzwilliams as potentially very harmful, but not only to the monarchy but to her own credibility. He is correct. For such a book to land successfully, the reader must be willing to believe the author's account. Ferguson's long trail of unforced errors and her association with Andrew, who is now revealed increasingly to have a very fragile relationship with truth, makes any publishing deal very remote, and makes her less believable. The fact that there's now an email saying that Andrew had posed for a photograph with Virginia Giuffre means the evasive testimony about that famous photograph and the suggestion that it is faked recedes immediately, whether it's faked or not faked. It disappears from the public conscience, and it infects everything that Andrew and Sarah have to say with the suspicion that it's just a pack of lies. That is the problem. That is the effect of the scandal at the moment. It reduces the believability of the brand. Now, eventually, I think Sarah Ferguson will emerge as somebody that we want to hear from. And I think a memoir would sell like hotcakes, but not this year, maybe not even next year, but in about 2 years' time. Wow. Hold your breath, because she has things to say. The tragedy at the moment within this narrative is not theatrical but human, the portrait of a woman who is socially and institutionally cast off, adrift. Friends quoted in the press describe her as lonely and anxious about the future. Her daughters remain loyal, but loyalty cannot substitute for structural support in a period of reputational freefall. The withdrawal of Flora and Fern is therefore not an isolated incident, it's a symptom. It reveals a shrinking circle of institutions prepared to take risks on a figure whose past misjudgments are now viewed not as unfortunate footnotes, but as liabilities. Conservative institutions, publishers, charities, royal households are recalibrating their risk threshold, and Ferguson has slipped below the line. In the end, the episode illustrates a significant shift in public ethics surrounding the extended royal network. The deference of the past has been replaced by the caution of the present. Titles no longer guarantee immunity, nostalgia no longer guarantees redemption, and a reputational recovery requires clarity, contrition, and consistency, none of which have yet been visible. For Ferguson, the commercial decision to pull a children's book is not only a surface reflection of a deeper truth, it's potentially the end of a life relying on this sort of trade. She is going to have to find a way to get through the next 2 years before she can reignite her brand. And once she does, I'm sure there's a lot of people in royal circles who will be very worried about what she has to say. She has reached a moment, however, now where her public narrative is fractured, where her options are narrowed. Unless she can redefine herself convincingly and take the time to do so, she risks remaining in this liminal position in the doorway, neither fully cast nor fully rehabilitated, but drifting, unanchored, like a ghost. You suddenly think, what's that song, Kathy? Anyway, like a ghost, unanchored, and increasingly irrelevant. She has the potential for rehabilitation, unlike her former husband, who has none.